Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Day 146 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Last night the Russians fired 7 caliber cruise missiles from the Black Sea. 1 was shot down and 6 fell on built-up areas in Odessa. Ukraine is not giving up, but still needs the support of the West to repel Russian attacks. The attack took place overnight on Monday. According to local authorities, Russian missiles fell on civilian infrastructure in Odessa and the surrounding area. People were injured, including a child. As a result of the impact, 3 residential and 2 farm buildings burned down. Several private properties, many cars and a school and a community centre were also damaged. However, the Russians also suffered significant damage. Since the 24th of February, Russia has lost over 38,500 soldiers in Ukraine, almost 1,700 tanks and 220 aircraft. In the last 24 hours, 65 Russian soldiers have been killed in fighting with Ukrainian forces in the south. And another 2 Russian ammunition and enemy stores were destroyed. In view of the growing personnel shortages in Ukraine, the Russian command is faced with a dilemma of whether to send additional forces to continue the offensive in Donbass or to defend itself against Ukrainian counterattacks. One more important news about the security service of Ukraine. A personnel audit is in progress. The issue of dismissal of 28 officials of various ranks, various specializations. The reason is the unsatisfactory work efficiency. The armed forces of our country managed to inflict significant logistical losses on the occupiers. The Russian army is finding it increasingly difficult to maintain positions in the occupied territory. Spotting and neutralizing enemy forces is our job. The prospect is obvious. The Ukrainian flag will be in all our towns and villages. It's just a matter of time. Fierce fighting continues in the Donbass region. In combat, Ukrainian forces use foreign weapons and the skills gained during the training that American instructors have been conducting in Europe since April. We are constantly on the move because the enemy finds our positions and attacks us. During the operation in 2014-2018, we were able to stay in the same place for several days. But we don't do that anymore. The weapon is mobile, we can move without any problems. We fight for our land to defeat these villains. I decided to stay in Ukraine and fight because if we don't end it now, Russia will come back anyway. We must put an end to aggression so that our children do not have to continue fighting in the future. I couldn't stay in Poland and work while my son was serving in the war. By chance, I was assigned to the same unit as him. We've been fighting together for 2 months. Training and supplementing the needs of the Ukrainian army are just a drop in the ocean of needs. That is why the head of the EU Foreign Affairs, Josep Borrell, has announced the transfer of another tranche of financial aid to support Ukraine's defenders.
We are terrified by the violence of the Russian aggression against civilian people in Ukraine. And there are also disturbing reports about the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war by the Russian troops. Russia continues to target fields and food stocks. Everybody has seen the images of wheat fields being burned. They continue blocking the exports from Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenska, met yesterday in Washington with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. I am here at the invitation of First Lady Jill Biden. She visited us in Ukraine in May to see in person and talk to those who lost their homes and loved ones as a result of the war. Now it is my turn to speak in the United States about the needs of Ukraine, about our resistance and the fight against the aggressor. Olena Zelenska also met Samantha Power, the head of the United States International Development Agency, who donated billions of dollars for military and humanitarian support to the Ukrainian government. Yesterday evening, a bill appeared on government websites announcing new support for households. There will be subsidies for families using coal. This is the government's response to soaring energy commodity prices caused by the war in Ukraine.
The bill provides for a one-off subsidy for coal in the amount of 3,000 zloty. The subsidy will be given to farms where the main heating source is a coal-burning stove. This will require a very simple application. There are no income criteria. The government gave assurances that Poland will not run out of coal. Coal in Poland will be in sufficient quantity. Coal both dug in our mines and that which we buy from abroad. Experts predict that the problems with the availability of coal resulting from the sanctions imposed on Russia will contribute to an energy crisis, the dimensions of which may be difficult to estimate. I guess the government wants to send such a consolation prize to coal buyers, these 3,000 zloty. It is a noticeable bonus, while it is not known whether there will be a raw material to buy. We will not reform to suddenly switch to heat pumps with photovoltaics overnight, so we have a situation when this winter will be really difficult. Problems with the availability of energy resources occur throughout Europe. The crisis is exacerbated by the actions of Russia, which is failing to comply with the agreements it has signed. The Reuters news agency published a letter to Gazprom sent to its European customers. The Russian company said in it that due to the so-called force majeure, it would not be able to guarantee gas supplies. I think the Russians will not resume operations of the Nord Stream gas pipeline after July 21st, which is the date when maintenance work is supposed to be completed. I think Vladimir Putin is now embarking on a gas siege of Europe. Poland has been trying to convince the West for years of the need to diversify the sources of blue fuel. At that time, the words of Polish politicians did not find support among the European elite. Poles, Polish law and justice politicians have been warning for a long time against this gas blackmail that Putin may use. The first person to warn against it was late Lech Kaczynski, the president of Poland, not only in his speeches but in the decisions that were made at the time, that is in the building of the gas port. The cause of the raw material crisis is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Under pressure from Germany, Canada returned to Russia the turbine, which is an element of the Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky did not hide bitter words about this. This problem is not just about the turbine. It is a matter of compliance with sanctions. If there is one violation now, it is only a matter of time before others emerge. Russia is knowingly blackmailing over gas and provoking violations of sanctions. There are enough routes for the transit of Russian gas to Europe, and every country has to follow the rules. Experts estimate that a ton of coal this year may cost up to 3,000 zloty. This is 3 times more than 2 years ago. Poland's situation would be much more difficult if it were not for the diversification of energy sources, which was made possible by investments in the gas terminal at Świnoujście, or the new interconnector between Poland and the Baltic states.
The first of 28 Abrams tanks arrived at the Land Forces Training Centre. Polish soldiers of the 18th Mechanized Division will start training with them soon. In total, 250 such American tanks are to be delivered to Poland. This is not the only purchase made recently by the Ministry of Defence, and more are planned. This is the first stage of the contract signed at the beginning of April this year. Within 5 years, 250 M1A2 Abrams latest generation tanks will be delivered to Poland. The first of 28 Abrams tanks arrived at the Land Forces Training Centre. Soon the soldiers of the Iron Division will begin training with them. This year, Poland is still waiting for the Patriot and Bayraktar systems, shock drones that proved themselves in the war in Ukraine. Now, Polish tank crews will start training on the new machines. When deliveries begin to reach us at the turn of 2022 and 2023, our soldiers will be ready to board these vehicles and perform their duties. The Deputy Head of the Ministry of Defence emphasises that Poland is purchasing the most modern equipment, which together will constitute a compatible set of connected equipment, increasing Poland's security and its deterrent power. The F-35 planes are the world's most modern multi-role fighter aircraft. Abrams tanks, the most modern tanks in the world, Bayraktars, or drones, HIMARS or artillery. In addition, Poland will receive 116 additional Abrams tanks in the older version. This is to compensate for the transfer of T-72 tanks to Ukraine by Poland. In turn, several innovative solutions have been introduced to the latest generation of the tank. An engine that can use various types of fuel, composite armour, a computer fire system, and a system that protects a crew from attack by nuclear, biological or chemical weapons. Among other things, it was built to win an artillery duel with the T-14 cannon. That is, that legendary Russian tank that we have not seen in Ukraine. The Russians feared a confrontation. At the beginning of July, the contract for the delivery of 32 multi-role AW149 helicopters was approved. In turn, Huta Stawowa Wola will produce the Borsuk, which is currently in the testing phase. There are plans to purchase 500 HIMARS rocket launchers. The war in Ukraine has shown how important missile defence is for the country's security. The most important thing is to build an anti-access system. This is to be provided by the Narew system, a kind of missile shield. Poland is a leader in terms of spending funds on armaments. This year alone, the government will allocate 2.4% of gross domestic product, that is approximately 65 billion zloty, for this purpose. In 2023, the Ministry of Defence announced an increase in defence spending to 3% of GDP. This is the effect of the Law on Defence of the Fatherland, which entered into force in March this year. Today, the United Kingdom recorded its higher ever temperature of 40.3 degrees centigrade at Coningsby in Lincolnshire as the heatwave gripping Europe intensified, scorching fields and damaging airport runways and railway tracks.
The Met Office said the provisional record, which still needs to be confirmed, was recorded at 12:50 p.m. at London's Heathrow Airport, surpassing the previous record of 38.7 Celsius, recorded in 2019. Trains were cancelled, normally busy city centres appeared quiet, and zoos struggled to keep their animals cool.
We're from Alaska. We booked a hostel, and we were not expecting this because it's going to be super hot in our hostel too. So we're gonna go find a park close to the Thames and try to get a breeze and some shade. Yeah, this is pretty extreme. We weren't expecting this from London. We're just going to suffer through it because we're here for 2 days. We're going to make the most of it, and yeah, we're sweating a lot.
In shops, ice cream and cold drinks were selling out, while fans, hoses, and air conditioning units were in demand. Tourists at London's iconic Trafalgar Square cooled off in its fountains.
Yeah, because we've been watching the weather forecast, but we've got plenty of fluids, as you can tell. Yeah, and coming down here and getting a spray off the fountain, which has been great. So yeah, it's we knew what we were expecting. We've had to change hotels this morning because the trains were not running, so we've had to get another train, another hotel, haven't we? And then another train booked for tomorrow. But we're not complaining, so it's all good.
The UK, which sometimes struggles to maintain key transport services in extreme heat or the snow, has been put on state of national emergency over the unprecedented temperatures. Climate scientists said that the once unthinkable temperatures in London were likely to become more common in the coming years.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business, and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.